Hi everyone, this is Deanna from the Harvest Skillet, and today I thought I would start with a little intro to my progression with my diet and where I'm at these days. I thought I would do a couple segments for this video. First of all, I'm going to start with going gluten-free because that was the first step in my health journey, so I figured it made sense to start there. And then I'll probably do a second video where I talk about Whole30 and my experience using that to diagnose my food sensitivities, and then part 3 will be like my low carb / mold free diet, which is kind of the final piece in my health puzzle. So I guess I should start off by giving you guys a little bit of an intro to the symptoms and the things I was experiencing that eventually prompted me to start this health journey. So as far back as I can remember, I've had pretty bad headaches, probably since like I hit puberty, something like that, as well as acne. And it started off kind of minor, but things started progressing and just got worse and worse and worse. And as most teenagers do, you hate having acne, and you go to the dermatologist and they prescribe you topical ointments and antibiotics and all those things. Nothing the dermatologist ever prescribed for me really made much of a difference. I took all sorts of things, pretty much everything short of Accutane, which I didn't want to take. And after a certain point, I started looking up some natural remedies and wondering if I had candida or a food intolerance or something that might be causing it, but it wasn't for a very long time that I started to take action on that. I was actually tested for celiac disease probably when I was like 18, something like that, and it came back negative, but I actually had not done my research properly because I decided right before doing that test it was a good idea to try going gluten-free and see what happened. But little did I know that you have to be like basically gorging yourself on bread and things like that before you take that test for it to come back positive. And in the end, I'm positive I don't have celiac disease, but it obviously was kind of a worthless test because of the way I went about it. But I did try going gluten-free, as I mentioned, for several weeks, and as most people do when they start by going gluten-free, I was eating all of the gluten-free bread and waffles and things that are probably not the best for you anyway, especially if they contain other grains and things, which, spoiler alert, I've found I'm allergic to those as well. Well, allergic. So I would say I've also had some other symptoms aside from the acne and the headaches. The headaches started getting really bad, I'd say like college / graduate school age, and along with that came some other symptoms. I was having really bad bloating most nights, digestive issues of all sorts. I won't go into too much detail, but also brain fog and some dizziness, major fatigue, and I've always been just like very hungry all the time and had trouble gaining weight and just maintaining a normal weight, I'd say. I've always been on like the skinny side of things and wondered, like, other than eating tons of ice cream, there's got to be a healthy way to gain weight, right? But I don't know, no one could ever answer that question for me either. So there have just been a lot of things that I didn't understand and never felt right. So I guess probably giving you guys a background of my dietary progressions would be a good idea, because I've been at the other end of the spectrum from where I am currently, and in my teens and early 20s, I'd say I followed a pretty strict vegetarian diet, and I was vegan for part of that time. And little did I know, I was mostly eating pasta, grains, rice, like all of these things that I didn't realize I had an issue with at the time. And so I think it kind of got to a certain point when I was following a vegan diet that my body just couldn't handle it anymore, and I started to just have terrible symptoms, like headaches all the time, almost every night, like terrible bloating, like every single night. And so I figured I just had to do something. There had to be a reason that I just needed to figure out. So I got fed up enough and finally took action. So I've always been somewhat of a book nerd. I've always loved reading nonfiction, especially if it has something in it that I can learn from, even better. So once these headaches and things got to a certain point, I started diving headfirst into all sorts of different books about dietary changes. One of the ones I started with was Wheat Belly, another was Grain Brain, and then I progressed to It Starts With Food, the Whole 30, and from there some others as well. But Grain Brain and Wheat Belly were the ones that really got me going on the gluten-free path. So after that, I started a gluten-free diet pretty quickly, and I'm glad I did, because it was the first step that got me on this path of healing. I think it was crucial for my body to get those inflammatory foods out of my system, because almost immediately I started feeling relief in terms of my headaches. And I'd say it happened fairly quickly. They say it can take months, if not years for some people, but within several weeks I started feeling much better already. So after several months I realized I was definitely on the right path, but my headaches hadn't completely resolved like I mentioned. I'd say they got 50% better maybe, but I still had them even though they were less frequent and maybe not quite as bad as they were before. And so I realized I still had more healing to do and more investigating to do. So I think maybe I'll stop here for the first video, and I will continue this in part 2. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching.